What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Moguls. My name is Findlay-Shirras, and on today's show, we have Karen Abram, the founder of DashCMA, a new and improved CMA tool for real estate agents. Because as we will learn about today, the old CMA tools aren't the best and the most efficient and clear and simple to helping the agent and the consumer understand how much a home is worth. So if you cannot or can't win the seller's trust, because you have a bad CMA, then you won't get the deal done or have the be in power for negotiating what the listing price should be. So I'm excited to get to know Karen and DashCMA. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
So why don't you let people know who you are and what led you to starting DashCMA?
Sure. So I'm Karen Abram. My background has been in advertising for the last 15 plus years. I've helped Fortune 500 companies figure out how much to spend on their advertising, what their organic potential is, and where their point of diminishing return is for that spend. So at some point along the way, I thought about transitioning into different industries, thought about where does my skill set transfer into. My husband's a loan officer, and he noted to me that I've always had this ability of taking a lot of data and making people feel comfortable with it without compromising the comprehensiveness of the data. So he thought, why don't you try real estate? I thought it was interesting, so.
And are you a realtor?
Yes, I've been a realtor for the last 5 years.
Oh. And is your husband also involved in the DashCMA business?
No, he's just a great supporter.
So, I mean, yeah, then you have ads, data, but why CMAs? I mean, there's lots of other things you could get into. Like, why did you want to create a CMA company?
So I didn't get into real estate wanting to create a CMA company. My first client was actually a buyer. He wanted to make an offer on a home that was listed for 1.2. It should have been listed for 1.5, and he wanted to offer 900,000. So I was flipping through these 60 pages trying to show him that his offer was way below value. And I thought it should be easier. This isn't a good reflection of me and my brand. And I'm also not successful at making my case that his offer is way too low. So realized I've done it before in looking at price analysis. I'm going to make my own. So I did that, did about 17 deals that first year with my own product before I realized I'd like to make this something that other agents could use as well.
So how did you start building this? Like, was it just a bunch of Excel models on an Excel sheet?
Yes.
That, and then, so like, tell me about the origination, how you kind of pieced it all together.
It's a lot of Excel, definitely. I would build it in Excel, and then I would put it in PowerPoint and take it to presentations, both for the sellers and the buyers. Okay. I did over 40 different focus groups. I did focus groups with agents, recent buyers, recent sellers, real estate investors, developers, MLS members, as well as members of the tech industry. And I did multiple rounds with each to really gain broad perspective to build into the tool that is all about perspective.
So what were some of the challenges or the problems that you saw with the current CMA tools?
So for one, they're very lengthy. They are, your standard report's about 60 pages. Also, for the perspective that I wanted to bring, that really well-rounded knowledge, I would need to run at least 20 queries to get that. So it would take me at least 2 hours to pull it together. So those were the two main challenges. And then third, the visualization of it was not focused. So I wanted something that really showcased my values as an agent, that I am transparent, that I am focused, and that I'm someone you can trust, and I didn't feel that was exemplifying my values.
So are you saying that all the other CMA products out there have way too many pages of content, and they all take 2 hours to use?
Well, I'm not going to say all, but I will say for the main ones, if you really want to do a diligent job as an agent, you do need to run multiple searches. Here's a great example. For any CMA, I will say this, for any CMA out there, they're down to the comp criteria level. So by that I mean you are selecting what that square footage range is, what that neighborhood is, and how many bed counts there are. So my question was, what if you have a home that's the same bed count, right? That's in the same neighborhood, but instead of being within that 20% square footage range you selected for being a comp, What if it's 30% larger? All those other tools will not pick that up because it doesn't fit the description of a comp. I wanted a tool that would show me, here's your average price of comps, but here's some outliers. Be careful, because if you price at $1 million, for example, you're going to compete with homes that are 50% larger in this neighborhood. I wanted that perspective. I didn't want to be blindsided listing a home on the market, realizing that, oh shoot, I'm priced the same as homes that are also 40% larger or have one more bed. So this gives you that awareness and flags that.
Tell me more about, you don't have to name names, but the other types of CMA tools out there. So some take a really long time to use and they have lots and too much content. Is there like another version of CMAs that don't have a lot of content, but then also aren't as comprehensive?
Absolutely. There's definitely the Trust Me approach, which is a very down and dirty approach to pulling a quick value. There's also the AVM model. So for example, you can check the price of a home on Zillow, the Zestimate, Redfin, Trulia, all have different values as well. So there's no real kind of happy medium between getting comprehensiveness and getting a quick version of that is transparent and comprehensive.
And you're saying for your platform, it's more visual. It takes into consideration some outliers that just to give more perspective about how to price.
Yeah, absolutely. We also show the price difference, for example, of those comps with specific features. For example, how does pricing change with a pool, without a pool, with a view, without a view? We highlight that and we do it all in one view on one scale. We plot over 20 different perspectives. We even show the AVMs. We show Zillow, we show ePraisal. You can add any of the others you want as well.
Are you now seeing data about what increases the value of homes and what sometimes decreases the value of homes?
Oh, I love that question. So yes, we are. So for example, we do focus groups with each market to help understand what are some of those key differentiating features that add value. And it's interesting to see that sometimes it doesn't add value. So for example, I did 2 CMAs today during the Inman Connect show for clients. One showed that adding a pool for comps, and by comps, same square footage, same neighborhood, same bed count, same lot size, etc. Having a pool added $400,000 over comps versus homes that did not. I did another pool where that pool actually took $20,000 away.
How?
So it's just dependent on that neighborhood and whether or not that feature is truly bringing value. And that's what I love about my tool, is that it is down specifically to that home versus your other reports, not your other CMA reports, but your market reports talk about trending at a city level. And what buyers and sellers told us were, I'm tired of these trend reports at the city level. I'm not interested in selling all of Los Angeles. I want to know the marketability of my specific home. And that's what we tell them.
What are some of the, as a person who understands hyperlocal and neighborhood data, I know there's challenges with that because there's sometimes not enough or not a lot of it in that hyperlocal level. What are some of the challenges that you experience trying to create the perfect CMA tool because of the data and some of the technologies out there?
Oh, absolutely. So our data source is the MLS. We are an extension of them. We are a vendor with most of the MLSs on the Western region here. And the challenge will be, maybe there hasn't been a comp listed for, I don't know, maybe 6 months. Maybe there hasn't been an active home on the market or recent sales. So then data becomes challenging. But we can't, at that point, that's also indicative of the market. So we're not going to try to model out data that wasn't there. If there's truly no activity, then that's actually part of your pricing consideration.
What geographies do you serve?
So we launched in April of this year, and we launched with CRMLS as well as your Carrots feed. So that's your Southland Regional, that's your Claw, that's your iTech, Palm Springs, those MLSs. We expanded to San Francisco and Las Vegas.
So California, but not all parts of California?
We are quickly getting into the rest of California and actively in those conversations now.
Yeah. What, as a new startup, there's lots of startups who watch this, what are the things that need to happen before you expand to more geographic areas?
So you need data alignment. is definitely, that's been the biggest challenge for us in that there are over 600 MLS systems. They all store their data differently. There's nuances to all the data sets and really understanding that data too. So before we go to any new market, it's really understanding that market and really understanding what those pain points are for the agent and for the consumers. So for example, before we go into New York, we've understood from some of our focus groups that we've started there is gated entry and guarded entry are a huge differentiator in price. Doesn't really matter as much in Los Angeles, right? So, but that's a feature we will add. So making sure that you have the flexibility and nimbleness to adapt your product, I think as a startup is huge. And not just thinking you are in maintenance mode.
What about the expense of the data?
Yeah. It's there. It's definitely, I think you get what you pay for. I think there are options. There's, scraping options. And at that point, you're getting what you pay for on that. We don't believe in that. We do believe that there should be integrity behind the data and we respect it. So because of that as well, it can be very expensive to get a very comprehensive view. But I think when you take shortcuts on your opportunity as well.
What data do you wish you had more of, or even in the first place, that would help you be better at valuing homes?
So right now, I think we're in a good position in that I can answer that by saying, I think we are working with some great data sets with the MLSs that we launched with.
Yeah.
And that we're getting, for example, the past trending on homes for more than at least the last couple years. So that's been helpful. We tap into title data, and we are also exploring integrating data with the rental industry, as well as the iBuyer side. So,
what's the price of this product, and who are you selling it to?
It is, so for the agent can absolutely sign on and become a customer. It's $15 a month to them, or if they sign on for the year, it is $12 a month. We're also making deals at the brokerage and team level, so depending on scale of office and whether it's monthly or annually.
How does that stack up against all the competition? Where do you fit? Are you even? Are you lower priced, higher priced?
Sure. So I'd say we're kind of somewhere in the middle there, only because we're new and the veterans have been around for over 20 years, and some of them have member benefit deals with MLSs, which offer it to agents for free because of that. But in terms of the options that are for pay, those generally range between anywhere from $30 a month to $100 a month. So on that end, we're on the lower end.
Oh. So what technologies have you been adding to your system that have helped you create a really good CMA tool? Because you could be using machine learning, you could be using AI. What do you think are the technologies that will help you continue to be a great CMA tool in the future?
I think machine learning and AI is definitely going to help us get to that next step to show even more fuller perspective. Right now, we're showing the perspective that you would have to do over 20 queries for to show. So to get to that next step of how much deeper and how much broader perspective could you show, we have started conversations with AI companies to help validate how updated a home is and have that conversation. We are talking to data sets on the rental side to show what's the rental potential, both short-term and long-term, if you bought a property. We're also talking on the lending side of data to help show, for example, what would this home look like if you put 20% down, and basically add a ton more perspective already to pricing to really help the agent, arm them with a tool to answer every pricing question for their client.
Now, what do you think about iBuyers and AVMs and the Zestimate and all these platforms coming out, because they're telling the marketplace this is what someone is willing to pay for it?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just, a techie version of the people in the past saying, I'll buy your home right now if I don't sell it within 90 days? What are your thoughts on the iBuyer?
I think it's perspective. So, for example, in terms of the Zestimate that you mentioned, as an agent, you always get asked the question of, or told, Zillow said I can price my home here, right? So my response to that is kudos to you for checking Zillow. It's a public tool that customers have. They don't have access to the MLS. So I show them, I looked at the Zestimate as well. I also looked at 20 other perspectives, including other public estimates. I looked at the Redfin value, the ePraisal value, the Movoto value, the Realtor.com, and the Zestimate. And I show all of them in one line. And I show it to them on that line within the same perspective of, I also considered what's the highest active, the lowest active, the most recent active, the highest closed, comps with a pool, without a pool, comps slightly larger. So when you see it all in that view, suddenly that Zestimate is just one data point amongst everything else to create a really full picture, to really clearly see where some outliers are and where you have a lot of support. In terms of the iBuyer side, I think it's another point of perspective. If you're suggesting, for example, that in that scale, you're suggesting to price a home at $600,000, it'd be really helpful for an agent to say, I also have offers at this level that I can help walk you through and guide you through. It's just another data point, the way I see it. It all forms broader perspective into how aggressive or conservative are you truly pricing.
Are you auto-aggregating all those like AVM prices and stuff into your report?
Yes, so we show that to them. And if we're not pulling in, for example, we don't pull in the Redfin API because Redfin doesn't have an API since they're a brokerage on that. So, but it is a public service that you can look up and see what that value is. And as an agent, add that right in yourself. And we give the agents that option to add that in with the rest of the data.
What are some of the mistakes? I mean, because CMA tool is supposed to help agents value homes and help the seller price the home correctly. What are some of the mistakes that agents are still making that you hope this tool will help with?
Okay, so a lot of CMA tools rely heavily on the closed market. As when I got started as an agent, I actually had an issue with that because I felt like you were basically pricing based off of the past. Closed has a relevancy because that's where your appraisal comes from, right? So if you need a loan, you do need to make sure you have closed comps to support that. However, these are homes that sold 3 months ago, 2 months ago. You're not competing with them. You should have a real pulse on the active market as well. So for example, and those tools are not doing that. They're putting a real pulse on the closed market, but not as much as what's happening now with active comps. So my home, for example, when we went to sell our own, I was looking to list it for $640,000. There were 9 competing comps on the market. Everything was in favor of the buyer at that time. I was compulsive about rerunning the report. I saw one day everything switched. Suddenly it was a seller's market. Things were going above asking, and I looked deeper into my tool of why is there suddenly opportunity? And it's because 8 of those 9 homes went into escrow. And the one home that was left on the market did not have a pool. Mine did, which did bring value. And it was stale. It had been on the market for over 8 weeks. It was priced at $700,000. I told my husband, change of plans. We're putting it on the market tonight at $720,000. And that weekend we got $740,000. And that actually, when I saw firsthand of, wow, by following the market this way, watching not just the close, but really keeping a pulse on the active market, we just made $100,000 more. We need to make this tool available to other agents to use.
What's the future for your company? Where do you see it? Obviously in more areas, but what else do you want the technology to be able to do?
So we launched with what we consider to be our MVP, but it is pretty polished as it is now. That said, we have a 3-year roadmap of releases every 3 to 4 weeks of how we're growing features. So for example, in about 3 weeks, you will be able to send the interactive link to your client, get notified when they open it, and see a heat map of where they looked at that report. We're also adding in to show the rental value within the report, to show also the iBuyer value within those reports if you want to see that as an agent. We have a much longer roadmap of features I can disclose under NDA and letter of intent.
Yeah. Are you raising money?
Not at the moment, no.
What's your plan as a startup?
As a startup right now, we are already profitable. We are looking to expand into other markets and are in those conversations already right now. Being here at Inman Connect and on Startup Alley and as up for Innovator of the Year really definitely helped really organically connect to people that I've wanted to since starting. So this has been yourself as well. So it's been an amazing experience.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great to get to know you and your new startup. If you need a CMA, if you want to price homes better, then check our technology out. Anything that's visual and anything that's simple is going to help you have a relationship with the seller so that you can price it correctly, sell it well, and then that consistently helps you build your business. Subscribe to the YouTube show and the podcast if you want to get to know more real estate technologies so that you can improve your business. And I'll see you next time.